For centuries, men have asked the same haunting question. Why does female desire remain a mystery? What if the truth was never that women lacked desire, but that it was deliberately hidden, repressed, and even banned from discussion? Today, we uncover the disturbing theory that explains why female longing is both feared and forbidden, and why it still unsettles us today. The hidden nature of female desire. Not absent, not weak, but shrouded in silence, buried beneath the weight of morality, religion, and duty. We are told to see women as guardians of virtue, but behind that veil lies a restless current, a current powerful enough to reshape the very foundation of human society. Today, we explore the forbidden theory, one that was condemned, rejected, and even banned, because it threatened to reveal what no one wanted to confront. The first unsettling truth about female desire lies in what can only be described as the repression paradox. At its heart is a tension that has haunted human psychology for centuries. Desire never disappears simply because it is denied, silenced, or shamed. It does not dissolve into nothingness under the weight of social expectations. Instead, it retreats, buries itself in the unconscious, and finds new and often distorted ways to return. This paradox reveals that the very effort to repress desire intensifies it, reshaping it into forms that are harder to trace yet impossible to eradicate. In many societies, female desire has been bound tightly by moral codes, religious edicts, and cultural norms. Women have long been cast in the role of purity, guardians of virtue who must embody self-restraint and compliance. But this demand does not extinguish their longing. Instead, it pushes it inward, where it lingers unacknowledged and unspoken. The result is a hidden conflict. What is consciously denied begins to find expression in unconscious symbols, behaviors, and emotions. Dreams often become the first theater where this paradox reveals itself. What is forbidden during waking hours emerges freely in the dreamscape, where the mind feels no obligation to obey social rules. A glance, a forbidden touch, or an impossible scenario plays out not as random imagery, but as coded language, a way for desire to bypass repression. What could not be uttered aloud in daylight takes shape in night's symbolic stage, offering a glimpse into the inner life that remains concealed beneath outward appearances. The paradox also manifests in behavior. A woman may outwardly conform to the expectations of modesty, restraint, or submission, yet unconsciously reveal her desire through subtle gestures, slips of speech, or seemingly irrational choices. A sudden contradiction between words and actions, a hesitation that betrays longing, or an inexplicable attraction to forbidden things. All of these are signs that repression has not erased desire, but has transformed it into indirect forms. The repressed returns, not openly, but in ways that unsettle the order of conscious life. This paradox becomes even more striking when we consider its intensity. The stricter the repression, the stronger the concealed longing becomes. Just as a river builds pressure when dammed, desire grows in potency when forced into silence. Outwardly, one may see calm, obedience, or even indifference. Inwardly, however, the current of desire rushes with greater force, waiting for the smallest crack in the dam to erupt. This is why acts of rebellion, sudden infidelities, or dramatic shifts in behavior often seem to erupt from nowhere. They are not spontaneous, but the release of years of pent-up repression. It is within this paradox that the unsettling truth begins to take form. Female desire does not align neatly with the moral scripts written for it. It does not disappear simply because society demands silence. Instead, repression creates a double life, the external performance of purity, and the internal struggle of unspoken longing. And in this double life lies the very tension that unsettles both women who live it and societies that depend on their compliance. The second unsettling truth about female desire emerges in what can be called the mask of purity. For generations, women have been draped in an image of chastity, modesty, and self-denial, a cultural costume carefully constructed to hide the undercurrents of longing that flow beneath the surface. This mask has not only been imposed by society, but, over time, absorbed and performed by women themselves, creating a dual existence, the outward guardian of morality and the inward keeper of forbidden emotions. It is not the absence of desire that society protects, but rather the fear of what might be unleashed if it were ever allowed to surface without restriction. The mask functions as both shield and prison. On one hand, it shields women from accusations of impropriety, allowing them to maintain their place within the rigid expectations of family and community. On the other, it imprisons them within an identity that denies their full humanity, reducing them to vessels of restraint rather than acknowledging them as beings of passion and complexity. In this paradoxical space, purity is less a reflection of inner reality than a performance crafted for the eyes of others. Behind the veil, the inner world is far more turbulent than appearances allow. What makes the mask of purity so striking is that it is reinforced not only by external structures of authority, but also by women themselves who internalize the gaze of society. A woman may come to police her own words, her gestures, her glances, not merely out of fear of punishment, but because she has been conditioned to equate purity with worth. This self-surveillance transforms desire into something that must be hidden even from oneself. A fleeting thought, an unspoken fantasy, or a sudden surge of attraction becomes a source of guilt and shame, further entrenching the mask as the only acceptable identity. Yet, the mask does not silence desire, it only drives it to express itself in indirect forms. Just as repression creates its paradox, the mask of purity creates its own symbolic language. Women often express their hidden longings through art, music, or literature, where desire can be disguised as metaphor, allegory, or imagination. What cannot be openly claimed in life can be woven into stories, songs, and dreams. Even small gestures, lingering eye contact, subtle defiance of expectation, or sudden laughter in forbidden moments become cracks in the mask, glimpses of what lies beneath. The intensity of this mask becomes clearer when considering how much energy is invested in maintaining it. Entire institutions have historically been dedicated to enforcing the idea of female purity, from religious doctrines to cultural rituals, all of them designed to ensure that the mask never slips. But the need for such constant reinforcement reveals its fragility. If purity were a natural state, there would be no need to construct so many barriers around it. The persistence of this mask across centuries points to a deeper truth, that what lies beneath is powerful enough to unsettle the structures of order that rely on purity as a cornerstone. Thus, the mask of purity is not an accidental construct, but a deliberate one designed to keep desire hidden in plain sight. It insists that women embody innocence while quietly acknowledging, through its very insistence, that something far less innocent is always waiting beneath the surface.